Welcome back to Inside Politics. Our guest today, State Senator Brenda Gilmore and Nashville historian David Ewing. We're talking about the naming of John Lewis Way at Fifth Avenue downtown. A large portion of it is going to be renamed in honor of that civil rights icon. We're talking about the role that John Lewis played, not just in Nashville, but across the country as a civil rights icon beginning back in the 1960s. Brenda, we've talked about some of the events that are coming up. Let's briefly recap the major events, because they're all very appropriate to John Lewis's life, and then also talk about people always want to, if they want to go, where do they park their cars?
Oh, we have free parking, and that's a great thing. And it's at the Sound Stadium, which is on Representative John Lewis Way and Gillum Parkway. So feel free to come down. Over 300 cars we've arranged can be parked there. And we're also providing transportation from Ryman Auditorium back to get their cars when the celebration.
So when it's really hot later in the day and you want to go back, you're not going to have to worry about walking through all the heat downtown necessarily. No, for that matter.
No, but I'm inviting everybody to come and walk with me. We're doing a celebration walk, which is about 1.5 miles from Representative John Lewis Way down to Ryman Auditorium.
David, a dedication with a march, given John Lewis's life, is so appropriate.
Yes, John Lewis marched in the city. You mentioned April 19th when Luby's house was bombed. They marched from Jefferson Street to the courthouse. He marched across the Edmund Pettus Bridge. He marched in Mississippi for Freedom Riders. I mean, John Lewis's life as a civil rights activist started here. Reverend Lawson and Reverend Kelly Miller Smith really believed in him when other people didn't. If you read David Halberstam's book, The Children, it talked about John being an awkward, shy student and how a lot of people didn't respect him until Kelly Miller Smith, my minister, put his arms around him and said, he's got something to say and his word should be in granite.
You know, one of the people that is speaking on Saturday morning at 11 o'clock is the Reverend James Lawson, and he's also an icon of the civil rights movement. In fact, he was, I think, if I'm right about this, Senator, he was actually one of the mentors of John Lewis. John Lewis might not have been John Lewis had he not met James Lawson.
Exactly, and he also helped teach him the nonviolent techniques as well. And we also have John Meacham, you mentioned him. Mm-hmm. He's going to be one of our speakers. Michael Eric Dyson is going to be one of the speakers. Vice Speaker Nancy Pelosi is doing a video. Vice President Al Gore is going to be here. So it's going to be a wonderful lineup, as well as many of our young people. It's intergenerational. Let
me ask this question to both of you. There appeared to be, I couldn't remember more than, say, maybe J.C. Napier, actually a local black person who had a street named after him in Nashville, at least historically. Is this a sign, perhaps, that Nashville is going to change that in the future, that we might see more diversity among our street names? David?
I hope so. We recently named Reverend Kelly Miller Smith the loop around Nashville. Reverend Nelson Mary, the founder of First Baptist Church, Capitol Hill, the street is named for his honor. Charles E. Davis Boulevard, our local Vanderbilt basketball star, has a street named for him. But there's definitely more momentum, and I think that we should name more people from Nashville, or people that had made history in Nashville. And I'm glad that the Metro Council is taking up more of these streets.
Mm-hmm. And also, of course, Rosa Parks was not from Nashville, but we have Rosa Parks and Martin Luther King.
There are always issues with that. The state's doing some renaming of streets too, and some of them are almost kind of odd in terms of what's happened on Charlotte Avenue, and then the street that actually goes around up to the Capitol.
Mm-hmm. That was named Lamar Alexander Way, and I will say that I thought Senator Alexander was a great governor. And then there's a short portion of the Fulton Complex that's being named Ronald Reagan Way.
David, what else do we need to do dealing with what's going on here for the future in Nashville in terms of race relations? There's a lot of concern, I think, going into the next school year about what's going to happen with the teaching of racism in the schools. Some people think some of the curriculum, even in this state, is not right. But there are others who think we can't teach American history without talking a little bit about the role of what racism has played. Senator, I think you feel that way about it.
We must know our history and celebrate our history. I give tours all the time, and people come to many southern cities. They come to Nashville, Selma, Birmingham, Memphis. They want to know about John Lewis and what happened here.
I think it's going to put a chilling effect on our teachers, because they just don't know. In fact, the legislation says if they teach critical race theory, that their funding will be withdrawn. So I think school administrators are just going to be frightened. But as a community, faith community, individuals like you, I think it's going to be up to us to teach our children what actually happened with beginning with slavery, down through Jim Crow, and the Civil Rights Movement.
My mother was a classmate of John Lewis, and growing up I heard more about John Lewis than Martin Luther King, and I heard more about Diane Nash than Rosa Parks, just because they were at Fisk at the time. And so yes, families must teach, and the community must teach people too.
And I think also you understand that while you march and you do things, this is a generational situation. Nothing very few things ever change in life on a dime or overnight. So while it can be disappointing that things aren't perhaps going as quickly in the arch towards justice, people are still, perhaps we're still moving in that direction.
That's right. We just have to keep pushing. We have to keep pushing. And I'm optimistic that we will get there.
David, what do you see? Do you see more interest in people coming to Nashville to learn not just about country music and things like that, but to learn about what's gone on in the city historically, particularly in terms of race?
They do. It's what we're really known for. And John Meacham's recent book on John Lewis has shed more light to this platform of what these students did. It was nonviolent. It was successful. Although we were not the first, Greensboro beat us by a week and a half. It's because we were training and we were doing the nonviolent thing. But now visitors to the city, they are very interested in John Lewis. They are very interested in these lunch counters and kind of the legacy of Nashville.
David Ewing, thank you so much for joining us. Senator Gilmore, thank you as well.
Thank
and
you.
Good luck with the events this weekend. It's going to be, I think, quite a celebration in Nashville.
Yes.
Thank you, Pat.
Yes, it will.
And thank you for joining us on Inside Politics. We'll be back here again for a future show. If you can't get enough politics in the meantime, go to my website. You'll find my Capitol News commentary there. There's a new commentary posted every Friday afternoon. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we'll see you here next time. Goodbye.